Welcome to Fiery Discourse, your podcast and media featuring dragonesses, female dinosaurs, and other similar saurians and scalies. I'm your host, Ludmillanon, and with me are my co-hosts, Angron, Mathmachine and The Shark. Today is our 164th episode, and we're discussing the 2015 Disney Channel original movie, Descendants, to continue Maleficent Month. So, let's get things started. Disney Channel made Descendants in 2015 as part of their Disney Channel original movie program. The movie is about the children of Disney villains going to a school with children of Disney heroes. Basically, this is just Equestria Girls but with Disney characters, and I was not a fan of Equestria Girls. We'll see how that goes. Oh, go ahead, Angron.
And yet, in the movie proper, we get a lot of Disney heroes. Like, sure, we get the villains and we get a few of the heroes, but more on that later.
Yeah, that comparison to Equestria Girls is more accurate. Like, it's not just a joke of, it's because we took characters from this setting and put them in high school. Trust me, there's a reason that comparison works really, really well, but I won't mention why until we get to that point.
I'm actually the weird guy that would say that Equestria Girls makes sense if you think about it, because Hasbro makes a bunch of dolls and toys, so them making humanoid versions of MLP makes sense for that. This kind of is just a weird vacuum of why does this even exist in the first place?
Yep, and we'll definitely get to it when we talk about it right now. So, the movie begins with a shot of what appears to be a book depicting the Descendants logo, which is an apple with a bite out of it and the Disney D on top of it. The book opens up, revealing it instead to be an iPad case, and I will say this, that is actually kind of clever how they update the classic book motif for the modern day. That is a clever touch right there.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
As a hand swipes the title card on screen, we hear narration from Mal, who is Maleficent's daughter. She explains that 20 years ago, Belle and the Beast got married, with over 6,000 guests being there and a big cake. So, obviously, we know that Gazelle from Zootopia performed at their wedding. She explains that, instead of a honeymoon, the Beast united all of the kingdoms into the United States of Auradon. And, hilariously enough, this is such a blink and you miss it detail that actually made me laugh. One of the states is literally just called Cinderellasburg. Obviously, they got the idea from Otisburg from Superman the movie. Mal explains that all of the villains, sidekicks, and interesting people got sent to the Island of the Lost, which is where she lives. And sadly, no, we do not get to see Maleficent fight the smoke monster. She explains how there is no magic, no Wi-Fi, and no way out, or so she thought. Before telling the audience that they'll meet the rest of them, she then explains that something else happened. We cut to Belle and Beast's son, Ben, getting fitted for an outfit. The couple arrives, as Beast notes that he's too young to be crowned a king, as Belle points out that Ben is turning 16. Beast says that being 16 is too young to be a king, claiming that he didn't make any good decisions until he was 42. Belle points out that they got married when they were 28, as he remarks, "It was either you or a teapot," as she looks offended, which, the sense of humor in this movie is very, very awkward. It's one of those things where they're trying to be all satirical, like Enchanted, but unlike Enchanted, it just doesn't work out here.
Yeah, another thing with the humor is that sometimes it's really dependent with you being familiar with the original movies. Like, sometimes there won't be really a joke. It's like something like, oh, remember this thing from Snow White? That's the joke.
Hey, remember that thing? Here's that thing again. Isn't that funny? And no, it's not. Ben then says that he has his first proclamation ready. He says that children from the Island of the Lost should be able to live in Auradon. Belle and Beast are shocked by this, as Ben says that they've been abandoned. Beast retorts by saying that the children of our sworn enemies living among us? And, well, we'll see if it's very much like Among Us or not. Ben continues that they'll start with a few children at first, the ones that really need their help, and he's made the choices. Beast approaches him, asking, "Have you?" as Belle convinces him that since she gave him a chance, he could do the same with the children. Ben says that it's the children of Cruella de Vil, Jafar, the evil queen, and Maleficent. This last one causes the tailor to scream out in shock as Beast confronts Ben about his choice, saying that Maleficent is the worst villain in the land, and how, but we'll get to that in a sec. Ben tries to convince his father, but Beast says that these villains have committed the most unspeakable crimes. Ben says that their children are innocent as Beast relents. Belle is proud of him as Ben twists his ring in nervousness. Music begins to play as we get our first musical number of the film, Rotten to the Core. Now, the music in this film was written by Shelley Peiken, who is probably best remembered for writing the one-hit wonder song by Meredith Brooks, that classic song, and this is the actual title, from 1997, Meredith Brooks' Bitch. The song that everyone knows, I'm a bitch, I'm a lover, I'm a child, I'm a mother. They got a writer of an annoying one-hit wonder to do the music of this movie, so yeah, definitely interesting.
Rotten to the core, huh? I guess this song was the last thing King K. Rool saw before getting stuck all the way underground.
Nice.
That being said, I didn't hate the music, but I'll be honest, it just exists. There were a few clever pieces in here, but sadly, Rotten to the Core is about as subtle as a bag of hammers on a dry wood floor. It's pretty blatant, and it's more or less the theme, the entire foursome. To be perfectly honest, it just exists. Not too bad, and there are certainly more or less better songs later.
I would like to note that we are roughly 3.5 minutes in, and as soon as this dubstep High School Musical song started up, I just noped out of the film from this point. I think that might be a record for me.
I could easily see why, because yeah, this is not a good musical number by any stretch of the imagination. The song begins with Mal making graffiti of her mother before Jay, Jafar's son, slinks down an alleyway and begins singing with her. Evie, the daughter of the queen from Snow White, who, just to make a little tiny tangent here, they literally just call her the evil queen, and it's like, she has a name! It's Grimhilda! It was in the script of the original Snow White! Why do you not use it? Evie, the daughter of the queen of the Snow White, dances on a table before Carlos, the son of Cruella de Vil, shows up, stealing a scarf and an apple as they both sing. We get shots of them dancing through various locations on the Isle of the Lost, showing how run down it is. The chorus is them singing how they're rotten to the core while messing up things for others. We cut to them running through the sewer pipes, obviously being chased out there by the Ninja Turtles who want to make their own really bad musical, as the second verse is very much like the first. And before we get the lead up to the second chorus, we get a dubstep breakdown of them dancing in the streets, and not in the Mick Jagger, David Bowie way either. You could definitely tell that this was 2010s because it's a bunch of guys in a boardroom and they're like, what's popular with the kids these days? Oh, the dubstep, because we gotta have the dubstep because the kids like it. And man, it does not work with the song at all because the song is kind of, I guess, like Fame from Fame. And yet you have this random dubstep breakdown in it, and it just does not connect at all. Anyway, go ahead, Angron.
Yeah, like I said, there are better songs that are a little more fitting. This is not one of them. I didn't hate them. I will definitely say that you could tell this was 2010s. The bridge from the 2000s, which had stuff like Cheetah Girls and the aforementioned High School Musical, and the 2020s, which are its own bag of worms.
I will say this, and we're not just going to relentlessly be negative on this, because I will say this, the dance choreography in this is very impressive. So obviously, a lot of time to get all these kids choreographed and doing the dance moves, it looks good. It's just that the song around it isn't. I wish that they had a better showcase of their talent. After the song ends, Mal steals a lollipop from a nearby baby in a carriage, and shows it off to the rest as they all laugh in triumph. A pair of imposing-looking guards arise before Mal greets her mother. Maleficent pushes her way past the guards and says how she's so disappointed in her daughter. Maleficent is played by Kirsten Chenoweth, who is best known for being Glinda in Wicked, as well as Princess Skystar in the My Little Pony movie. And she looks a little bit different from the original Sleeping Beauty. Number one, of course, that her face isn't green, but also that her color scheme has a lot more blues in it compared to her usual look, which is very interesting. I think what kind of hurts the performance to me, and I'm not saying that again because Kirsten Chenoweth is a very, very talented actress, the voice is very off to me. It doesn't sound like she's cold enough to be the mistress of all evil, because in the original Sleeping Beauty, everything Maleficent said looked like it was calculated way, way ahead of time. She was so cold, and yet every word she said was well thought out to be as ice cold and as dangerous as possible. She sounds a little too peppy, I think, to be Maleficent, and I think it might just be miscasting. I'm sorry, because she just sounds a little bit too chipper. I would have liked it if Maleficent was a little bit more stoic, a little less extravagant, but that's just me. Go ahead, Angron.
Less Mayor Bellwether and more Ragna Kiroine, if that makes any sense. Also, yeah, I do agree. This is not the voice you get for friggin' Maleficent. The one from Once Upon a Time, that is the voice you get. The biggest example I can give of putting the wrong voice to the wrong setting and character for said setting would be Batman from The Killing Joke. And that is because, another example, in a Batman episode where they parody stuff like the Adam West and Frank Welker era, you pretty much got Jeremy Irons as Batman in that, and it works for the Frank Welker setting because he's grittier, he's more edgy, and it shows because at that time, that was pretty much it. This doesn't really go for the vibe that should come from the Mistress of All Evil, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, they got this actress because she can sing. She can sing really well, and you're going to hear that a little bit later when we talk about that. But the issue is, as was stated, she is known for characters that are very bubbly, very peppy, very perky. She is sort of the antithesis of Maleficent. So the biggest issue is she never really portrays Maleficent in this, without spoiling the ratings for later. You never really feel like this is Maleficent that you're watching. And it just throws this off so badly.
I mean, considering the setting and what the story is supposed to be about, it's clear that they took the character of Maleficent and made it like the mother that, oh no, my daughter is not going to do that, I control what my daughter does and all of that. So they're clearly focusing more on that aspect of the dream-crushing parent rather than the evil witch from the evil kingdom. And it's like, of every Disney character you could have chosen, Maleficent was not the one that should be playing that role.
Exactly. Honestly, you should have gone darker with Maleficent. Again, more Ragna Kiroine, less Mayor Bellwether.
Like, Cruella would have been a better option in this setting, for example.
And we see Cruella later on, so yeah, it would have worked out better. That talented actress, extremely talented musician, but again, she just doesn't seem like Maleficent. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Mal tells her mother that she literally took candy from a baby. Maleficent then proceeds to spit on it, stick it under her armpits, and tells her guard to give it back to the dreadful creature. So right away we have something that is also very out of character for Maleficent. The original Maleficent would have taken that lollipop and probably broken it in half and tried stabbing somebody with it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just imagining Assassin's Creed, which just walks up to someone and yanks her in the neck with it via hidden dagger.
I genuinely, watching the scene, could not tell if this was some executive's idea at what they thought was humor, or if this was their barely disguised fetish.
Maleficent then tells her daughters that it's the, and direct quote here, deets, that makes the difference between being mean and being evil. She tells her daughter that when she was her age, she was cursing entire kingdoms. Maleficent then tells Mal that she only wants the best for her, which is, of course, how to be me. Maleficent then tells Mal and the others about how they're going to a boarding school in Auradon. They try to run away but are stopped by guards. All of them protest about not wanting to go to boarding school, with Jay saying that he doesn't do uniforms and Carlos being afraid of dogs. Obviously, the reason he's afraid of dogs is because his grandmother got killed by the Dalmatians.
Yep.
Yeah, honestly, that little detail is going to come back later in a pretty adorable and pretty comedic way, more so than most of the other comedy in this film, but yeah, we'll get to that in a bit.
Maleficent then tells them that they're all thinking small and that what she wants is world domination. We cut to them inside as Maleficent tells them that they're going to go to the boarding school and get the fairy godmother's wand to bring it back to her. Mal asks what's in it for them, as Maleficent replies, matching thrones, hers and hers crowns. Carlos asks what they'll get, as Maleficent instead tells her daughter to come closer. She asks if Mal likes to see innocent people suffer, and after Mal says yes, she instructs her to get the wand so they could see that. She then says that with the wand and her scepter, both good and evil will bend to her will. The Queen of Snow White, played by Kathy Najimy, who also was in Hocus Pocus, so pretty good casting right there. She corrects her by saying it'll bend to our will. Maleficent then says that if Mal doesn't get the wand, she'll ground her. Mal tries to protest, but Maleficent simply grabs her daughter's arms and glares into her eyes with a green glow. Mal tries to fight it, but eventually gives in as Maleficent cheerfully says, I win, in another, out of character moment for her.
Yeah, honestly, her being this way after being disconnected from more powerful magics and Wi-Fi honestly kind of makes sense. And the fact that we get a peppier, more nasally sounding Maleficent kind of reminds me a bit of Galvatron from Transformers. Like, after being transformed by Unicron, and when Unicron was destroyed, he kind of went a little berserk, and it's reflected in his voice, which is played by Frank Welker. Plays Galvatron because A, couldn't get Leonard Nimoy, but B, without Unicron, Galvatron goes kind of bonkers, and I think that's kind of what they were going for here in Descendant. We have a Maleficent who doesn't have her powerful magics, doesn't have her dragon form anymore, and because of that, it's kind of going to be a little bit more embracing of the madness.
The queen then tells Evie to find a handsome prince with a big castle, a large mother-in-law wing, and lots of mirrors, as the two say this last part together. Evie then laughs, but the queen tells her not to or she'll get wrinkles. Cruella tells Carlos that he's not going because she'll miss him too much, saying, quote, "Who will touch up my roots, fluff my fur coats, and scrape the bunions off my feet?" Which, thank you for that. Carlos says that maybe going to a new school won't be so bad, as she warns him about dogs being there. Jay says that Jafar isn't going as well, as he needs him to run his store. He then sees a lamp and begins feverishly rubbing it, only for Jay to say that he tried that already as they both groan. And what a missed opportunity here. You could have gotten Gilbert to come back as Iago and you didn't. You could have had that one for free.
Could have. They didn't.
Even if he has to be like a realistic parrot, you could have gotten him for this. But alas. The queen then tells Evie to get rid of the unibrow, something that Squilliam will not be too happy about because, as we know, it's big and valuable.
Yep.
Indeed.
I do like this part, though, that Maleficent has had enough of the other villains' nonsense. Like, she has absolutely zero patience for any of this. I do like that. That is actually something that would be in character for the real Maleficent. She tells them all that she's been trying to find a way off the island for over 20 years and get revenge on all the heroes who managed to defeat them all. When she tells Cruella about how the Dalmatians defeated her, Cruella says that they didn't get the baby and starts squeaking on a squeaky toy and laughing insanely, so yeah, she's clearly lost it.
Oh yeah, they've all lost it, let's be honest.
Maleficent then steals the queen's mirror and says how she'll get revenge on Sleeping Beauty, even though she should know to call her Princess Aurora instead, but semantics, as well as Prince Philip. Maleficent then tells the queen to give her the magic mirror, which is now a hand mirror. Evie is shocked at this, as the queen says, "It isn't what it used to be." And Maleficent says, "Yeah, so are we." And then they laugh. So, yeah, now they took the evil queen and Maleficent, two of Disney's most scariest villains of all time, and they've made them the two old guys in the Muppet Show.
Yeah.
The queen then says that it will help them find what they need. Evie asks it for a prince, as the queen asks for her waistline, but Maleficent snaps at both of them, saying that they need the wand. She then goes to get her spell book, but fumbles with the safe, saying she doesn't know how to open it. The queen opens the door for her, as Maleficent takes out the spell book and says it'll work in Auradon. Maleficent and the queen reminiscent about good times. Then Maleficent hands Mal the book and says how you will be making memories of your own with this book by doing exactly as I tell you to. A car then honks as all the villains prepare their children for leaving. Maleficent tells Mal that the freedom of the free world is in your hands, and for her not to blow it. We then cut to a limo pulling up as all the teens get inside of it. In an actually good gag, Jay steals the hood ornament off of it before going inside, as Carlos runs from his mother to get inside the limo. Mal is the last one to get in, Mal is the last one to get in the limo, as her mother makes an "I'm watching you" gesture. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Before we leave the island, I'd like to make note of the parents real quick. Cruella in this is weird. I don't know what they're going for with her. This ain't Cruella. Maleficent, as we've mentioned, just isn't Maleficent. Jafar, I'm not sure what's going on here with Jafar. They made him from an all-powerful wizard into just this petty thief shop owner, which I'd like to know, is this what inspired the live-action Disney movie with Jafar having a thief background after this? The only one that's even, actually accurate to their character is Brunhilde here. She's the only one that actually feels like this is what would be the character from the movie.
Yeah, I have to give her actress props, because she actually feels like she watched Snow White beforehand and saw how the queen acted and would be like, okay, how would she act 20 years later from the events of it? And she actually is probably the best actress who is playing the villains because, like we said, she actually feels like the original character. Jafar tells them to bring home the gold, as Corella says to bring home a puppy, and the Queen tells them to bring home a prince. The group then says that there's candy in the backseat area, as Jay and Carlos fight over it. Evie tries to do Mal's makeup, saying that she looks pale. Carlos eats a candy, saying that it tastes salty like nuts, but sweet like something he doesn't know about. Jay wants to see it as Carlos opens his mouth, causing the two to fight again. The limo then approaches the bridge with the barrier on it as Carlos screams, "It's a trap!" And obviously we know who his mother is, but I didn't know his father was Admiral Akbar.
It's a trap.
They all scream as it goes past the bridge, with one made of magic appearing. Maleficent asks the driver if a certain button opens up the magical barrier, with the driver saying that this button's opened up the barrier, this one opens up the garage, then he presses the button to close the barrier between them. Mal then says, "Nasty, I like that guy." We then cut to Oridon Academy with the slogan, "Goodness doesn't get any better." As the limo arrives, a student band plays while the other students wave flags and welcome signs, and in a really cute touch, the welcome signs are all written in the exact same font as the Disneyland sign. Like, that's actually a cute reference. The limo door opens up as Jay and Carlos fall on the ground, fighting over a scarf. The fairy godmother arrives, somehow looking much younger than she did in the original movie, as she tells the boys to leave it where they found it as they put things back in the limo. Jay then hits on Audrey, who is the daughter of Philip and Aurora. The fairy godmother greets them, as Mal asks how does it feel when she appeared with the magical wand, then brings it up again. The fairy godmother tells them that was a long time ago, and for them to focus on the future. Ben introduces himself to them, as Evie tries hitting on him, saying how she's a princess too. Audrey says that since the evil queen, and by proxy Evie, has no royal status here, that doesn't mean anything, then introduces herself to them. Ben and Audrey are boyfriend and girlfriend, as the fairy godmother tells them that the doors of knowledge are open to them, but the library closes at 11 and tells them about curfews. Obviously, we had such a missed opportunity here. They could have learned about the stairs of learning, the classroom of learning, the fountain of learning. What a missed opportunity.
The best way I've found to describe the fairy godmother in this is if you've ever had the displeasure of meeting that one HR lady that took her job way too seriously, this is it.
For the most part.
Ben tries shaking hands with all of them, but is brushed off by all of them, and also notes that Carlos still has chocolate smeared all over his face, by making a speech for how it is the day their two worlds heal, as Mal sarcastically remarks, "It's the day you show 4 people where the bathrooms are." Ben nervously says how he did it a little bit too over the top. Audrey then notes that Mal is Maleficent's daughter, and says she doesn't blame her for her mother's actions, as Mal says that she doesn't blame her grandparents for not inviting Maleficent to the christening. The two then nervously laugh at each other before sighing as Ben gives them the tour. They approach a statue of Beast before Ben claps his hands, causing it to turn from the human Beast into the actual Beast form. Carlos leaps into Jay's arms as Ben explains that his father put the statue like that to remind people that anything is possible. Mal sarcastically remarks if he sheds, as Ben jokes, "Yeah, Mom won't let him on the couch." Is it really a symptom of the humor of this movie where they're trying to have a sincere moment and then they undercut it with a pretty stupid joke? Carlos claps his hands and tries to turn the Beast human again, but nothing happens as he runs off. They enter the halls as Mal asks if they have a lot of magic here, including wands, but Ben says that most of it is retired and that most here are just normal mortals. Mal notes that they all happen to be kings and queens, as Audrey brags about her royal lineage stretching back hundreds of years. The pair then laugh as Ben calls Doug, a nerdy band member, to come downstairs and show them around. Ben asks if they have any questions, but Audrey cuts him off and tells them to all ask Doug, as Mal and Audrey do that nervous laugh thing again. Obviously, Doug is actually Doug Jr., because he is the son of Doug Funny and Patty Mayonnaise, and that the science teacher is going to be Mr. Dink. "These beakers are very expensive." Go ahead, Matt.
Every time Mal and Audrey interact with each other, I'm reminded of the parody of Dynasty that American Dad did, where it's just the two women on screen slapping each other, yelling, "Bitch, slut."
Joan Collins would have made a better Maleficent, by the way.
Indeed.
Yes.
But Doug then tells them that He's actually Dopey's son, which is a mental image that is very disturbing for many, many reasons that I don't want to get to right now, so we're going to go past that. Evie introduces herself to Doug as Doug has a crush on her. He then gets a hold of himself and tells them about the classes they'll take, which includes History of Woodmen and Pirates, Internet Safety, and Goodness Class 101. And we know who the teacher's going to be. It's obviously going to be Patrick Starr. He's going to teach them by dropping his wallet and dropping heavy boxes on them. Mal sarcastically asks if it's a new class, as Doug points out that their dorms are in the other direction. Evie and Mal then arrive in their pastel-colored room. Evie loves it, but Mal hates it, as she has Evie close the windows, and remarks, "That's better." We then cut to at night, as Carlos is playing a video game with really incredibly bad graphics. Like, this is some early PS2 level stuff here. I have no idea what this game even was trying to be, or if it was like, kids like the video game, so make something that looks like the video game. As he flails with the motion controls, Jay shows them all the stuff that he stole. When Mal asks why, Jay says that it's like buying whatever I want, except it's free. Mal then says that he can keep the stuff or pick it up when they take over the world. Evie says that she sounds just like her mom, as Mal is flattered by this. Carlos shows Jay the video game as Jay begins to play it, but Mal yells at all of them for not taking any of this seriously, saying it's their one chance to prove to their parents how evil they can truly be.
I'm gonna make a little note here. This game that they're tending to play for this and the CG they use for it, it looks like the way that they're doing this is kind of like Beat Saber, which is weird because that game didn't come out until 3 years later, so somehow they predicted a game like Beat Saber in the future.
The others then all approve of this, as Mal asks the magic mirror where the wand is. After a few missteps, such as the mirror literally showing the entire Earth at first, and a pretty good gag, not gonna lie, it then shows that the wand is in a cultural museum. They look up where it is and run outside the building. We cut to them outside the museum, with Mal telling Evie to check the mirror. Evie asks if her mascara is smudged, as Mal tells her to use it to check for the wand. They then enter the museum and see the cursed spinning wheel that Maleficent used on Aurora. A security guard is watching the footage as Jay and Carlos joke about the spinning wheel being dorky. Mal then uses the spinning wheel to have the guard prick his finger on it, causing him to fall asleep. And to give them credit, they did use the original rhyme from the original Sleeping Beauty movie, so credit where credit is due, they did remember that. I will not give them credit for the fact that why is this thing in a museum in the first place?
Reasons to remind people that Maleficent exists and is still a problem, even today.
Jay then runs to kick the door down, as Mal uses a spell to do so, causing him to fall down. They then sneak past the guard and run to the Hall of Villains, where statues of the villains are in their heyday. They stare at their parents in awe, with Carlos's line of, "I'll never forget Mother's Day again," being a good one. The others run off as Mal begins to sing to her mother's statue about not knowing what to do. Maleficent then scares her daughter by coming to life, then laughs at her to "Not be so serious, darling." Maleficent then sings to her about being much like Mal in the past, as she then sings about how "don't you want to be evil like me?" And this song does not fit Maleficent in the slightest. Nothing about Kirsten Tannenward's performance, because she is doing a fantastic job here. It doesn't feel like anything Maleficent would sing, if Maleficent would sing at all. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
I find this very strange how this started, because this is essentially one of those I don't know what I want to do songs, and this doesn't make sense for Mal at this point because she's been the one pushing everything forward. She is very much pro I'm a villain, this is what I want to be from this point. So I think that what's happening here is we're seeing sort of an earlier rendition of the script where she didn't want to be a villain initially, and they didn't know how to fix it to start this particular song up.
Yeah, this honestly feels a little more like the Evil Queen sort of song. Like, Maleficent, I feel, would be a lot more regal, more refined compared to this. And yet, I gotta bring up the thing again. More ragu, less bellwether. This song, while it's nice and definitely is fitting for the movie, again, isn't really fitting for Maleficent.
Yeah, I've been thinking like the best way to describe Maleficent in this movie. And kind of weird that she doesn't show up because these movies and this other movie were around the same time. They should have been made the main antagonist Mother Gothel from Tangled, honestly.
You know, that actually would have worked out a lot better. I could easily see her doing this kind of Tin Pan Alley-esque song compared to Maleficent. The pair then sing together in the final verse, doing high kicks as they do so, and another moment that is not like Maleficent. The song then ends with Maleficent levitating and holding a high note as green lightning flashes. She then laughs evilly as Evie arrives, asking for Mal. Mal looks back to her mother, who is a statue again. Mal then joins the others as they find the wand just floating there. Jay reaches for the wand, only for an alarm to blare and for him to be blasted backwards. The guard then wakes up and chases them, but the teens manages to sneak out. Carlos answers the phone, telling whoever it is on the other end that it's a false alarm and to turn it off. And this is such a good moment and all. I will admit, I do like how Carlos has to use his wits to get out of it. I just wish they would have had him go, "We're fine, we're all fine down here, everything's fine. How are you?" They then run off as Mal laments to Jay how they have to go to school tomorrow. We then cut to them in goodness class, being taught by the fairy godmother, who uses multiple choice to try and teach them. The first question is, you see a baby crying. Do you A, curse it, B, lock it in a tower, C, give it a bottle, or D, carve out its heart? In a joke that actually made me laugh, partially just because how dark it was. I was not expecting that kind of a gag from this, but if they had more humor like this, I probably would have liked it a little more, to be a little bit more satirical, shall we say. Mal is the only one who gets the questions right, as she is busy sketching the wand. She tells the others that the right answer is always the one that doesn't sound like any fun. Jane, the fairy godmother's daughter, arrives, tells her that she needs to sign off for an early dismissal for the coronation. Jane is nervous about meeting the others as the fairy godmother introduces her to them. She nervously says hello before running off. Fairy godmother then reads the next question over what to do with the vial of poison. Jay and Carlos fight over who gets to answer first, with Jay getting it. The two then fight again, as fairy godmother tells them to take it to the tourney field. We then cut outside to a sports arena, where the two are currently playing tourney, which is a game that basically is lacrosse meets Quidditch. We get more dubstep music, as Jay proves to be overly aggressive on the field, dancing in victory when he scores a goal. The coach calls him over, and tells him that he sees a lot of raw talent in Jay, saying that he's on the team. Two other players are shocked at this, as Jay bumps past them while Rotten to the Core plays again. We then cut to the locker room as a student tells Ben how those guys are trouble. Audrey tells Ben that he's too trusting, saying despite what happened with his parents, she doesn't trust Mal because of what Maleficent did to her mother. Ben says that they're wrong, as he then asks Mal how her day was. She sarcastically says that it was super, as he notices her graffiti, saying that he could sign her up for art class. Jane runs past them, as Mal says that doing it for class takes the fun out of graffiti and leaves. She then runs into the bathroom, where she encounters Jane and tries to introduce herself. Jane is nervous about this, as Mal digs deeper, saying how you must have lots of friends with your mom being the fairy godmother and all, and this is another moment I actually do like, how Mal preys on Jane's insecurities and weaknesses. That is something that is really in character for Maleficent, or in this case, the daughter of Maleficent, to do. I have to give them credit. This was actually a good bit of writing. Jane says that she wishes she was pretty, as Mal uses a spell to give her a more modern hairstyle. Jane looks at it in shock and amazement, as Mal says that it's so good you don't even notice your other features anymore. Jane then asks Mal to fix her nose neck, as Mal says that she can't because she can't do big magic, like Fairy Godmother's wand. She then mentions how she could use that to make Jane look better, as Jane then admits her mother doesn't use her wand anymore, preferring to use books, and not magic books either, regular books. Mal then points out that the Fairy Godmother used magic on Cinderella, and asks if she really did love her daughter, continuing to manipulate Jane. She then says that if her mom uses her wand, to invite her when she will do it. We then cut to a science class, and I have to point out one thing. We already had one-hit wonder write the music for most of the movie. They should have gotten a second one-hit wonder write a song for this scene, and I know just who they could have gotten. They're studying magical science. They love their classes. They got a crazy teacher who wears dark glasses. Things are going great, and it's only getting better. They're doing all right, getting good grades. Future so bright. They gotta wear shades. Wait a second. No, I don't think that would fit Disney. That song's actually about nuclear warfare. Never mind. Evie then asks Doug who the blonde guy is before her. He then explains that it's Chad, the son of Cinderella and the prince, and that he's not too bright. Evie stares at him as the teacher interrupts her, asking what the atomic weight of silver is. She jokes, not very much because it's an atom, as the teacher is upset at this, bringing her up to the blackboard. She uses the magic mirror to answer the question for her as she writes it perfectly down to the last digit. The teacher is shocked at this, and she then tells him not to underestimate a villain. She and Chad hit on each other, as we cut to outside with attorney training taking place. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
I don't know if this is the actor or if this is the direction he was given. The guy who's playing Chad constantly has this derpy look on his face, very reminiscent of, if you know the kind of character that says Mortimer Snurd, the puppet, or someone parodying him that always went, oh, no, that one.
Ben says that Carlos will do some sprints as he's running incredibly fast, but it turns out this is because a small dog is chasing him. Carlos has chased up a tree as he yells at Ben to get rid of it, saying that it's a killer and it will rip out his throat. Ben asks and tells him who told him about that, as Carlos says it was his mother, to which I have to say, Matt, you mentioned this about the Aladdin remake, but I'm wondering, did they get that from the Cruella movie from this, with Cruella's mom being killed by Dalmatians? Because that's the only reason I could see Cruella de Vil being this afraid of dogs. Like, not hatred towards them, but like actual total fear of them.
Now you mention it, I can definitely see this being a live action connected movie. Not necessarily from the classic movies, but like the live action stuff. Cause yeah, we got Jafar being a thief, we got Cruella having a phobia of dogs instead of like an obsession / hatred of them. Like, what the heck? But did this predict all the live action movies that would come after this? And
I can definitely see that, you know? It's one of those things that it's very, very easy to see why. Carlos warns Ben about the dog, as Ben tells him that the dog, who's named Dude, is harmless. He has Carlos hold Dude, as Carlos is very nervous about it at first, but soon feels more accepting. We then cut to Evie and Chad going under the bleachers, as he tells her that she's really smart and that the nerds will be after her. Evie says that she's not that smart and that she's better with sewing and cooking and cleaning, like your mother Cinderella. She then shows him the magic mirror, as he asks where his cell phone is into it. She says that it won't work for him, as he says, oh, it's okay, my parents will buy me a new one. And I had to point this out. I did not expect Cinderella and the prince's son to basically be Jake Paul. A dream is a wish your heart makes every day, bro! Evie then brings up his parents and fairy godmother, then asks if her wand is in a museum and if they leave it there. He leans in to kiss her, but then says that he can't as he is swamped, before asking her to do his homework for him and they'll get together sometime. Doug then arrives, wearing a green sweater that, okay, I made a joke about this earlier, but this really is just Doug Funny's sweater. That is weird, right?
Yeah.
Evie asks if he's stalking her, as he says, well, technically, yes, and man, Disney made a huge mistake. They should have played Every Breath You Take over the rest of this scene, because that's the vibes I'm getting right now. He says that he has a fascination with Fairy Godmother's wand too, and says that it's used in the coronation and asks her out. She brushes him off as we cut to Evie, Mal, and Jane in the dorm. Evie frets about how her mother believes in inner beauty, but it not being enough, as Evie sews an outfit. She shows it to Mal and asks if she likes it, but Mal doesn't care. Jane laments about never getting a boyfriend, as Mal says that boyfriends are overrated. Evie says that Mal never had one, as Mal says she doesn't need one. Evie then realizes that she has to do Chad's homework. She runs over to do it, as Mal says, that's what I'm talking about. Lonnie, the daughter of Mulan, arrives, as she asks if they could do her hair too, which, this is really weird because Lonnie is this modern, hip teenager, and I could actually excuse the other characters being like that, but Lonnie's parents are from ancient China. It's one of those things where I don't know if they thought this out with her being a character, because again, this also raises a lot of questions. Like, with the fairy tale characters, you could make the excuse where, oh, it's like the genie from Aladdin with magic. That's how they know about the future. But, I don't know, having Mulan's daughter being one of them is kind of weird. But she asks if they could do her hair too. Mal asks why, as Lonnie says that she'll pay them to do it and wants to look like Mal.
It was with this character in particular, I noticed that this movie has a very odd trend. They will introduce a character by saying, "Hi, I'm blank, child of blank." Great writing right there.
Yep, because honestly, if they didn't say who are their parents, would you even guess who they're supposed to be sons of or daughters of?
Mal then casts a spell, making Lonnie's hair look like hers as Lonnie loves it, saying that she's now cool as ice. And yeah, Vanilla Ice showing up would be a benefit to this movie. He could tell them all, drop that zero and get with the hero.
I get it.
Jane intentionally rips her skirt, wanting to look cooler before realizing what she did. We then cut to the coach, who, believe it or not, is never named in the movie or even in the franchise, so I don't know who this character is supposed to be. The coach wants Jay on the team. Jay says how the other players are all wimps, and for him, it's all how to prepare to die, sucker, and gets all overexcited.
Oh, you must die. The vibe I got from that.
The coach calms him down, trying to tell Jay about how a team is like family, for Jay says, don't come to my house at dinner. Man, Jay, way to diss Iago like that. He would be an awesome dining companion. The coach then explains how a team is like a body, with each part contributing to it. Jay asks to be the fist, as the coach decides to give him a jersey. He then arrives in the dorm with the jersey on, as Mal looks through the spell book. Jay asks if the plan worked, as Mal says, if it did you think I'd be going through every spell in this book? Mal says that her mom is counting on her, as Jay says they can do it if they stick together because they are rotten to the core. Evie brings up the coronation and how the fairy godmother is going to use the wand to bless Ben. Mal stares at her in disbelief before being distracted by a door knock. It turns out to be Ben, asking if they're alright and that he didn't see them in class today. He asks if they need anything, as Mal asks if they can get on the coronation and be in the front row. Ben says that nobody can stand up front but him, his parents, and his girlfriend, as he then leaves. Mal then says it's time that Ben got a new girlfriend, as they read through the spell book. We then cut to them making a love potion spell, as Mal says that they need a tear. Carlos offers to cut some onions, as Mal says that they need a tear of human sadness. Jay says that a tear's a tear, as Evie begs to differ, explain the difference between an emotional tear and a reflective tear.
Yep, they're not wrong. After all, I thought the tear of the goofy goober will work for this.
Well, that is a real sincere tear, so it would. Lonnie then arrives, telling Mal that all the girls want their hair done, and takes some of the unfinished love potion batter. Jay hits on her, but nothing happens, as she says it needs chips. She gets out chocolate chips, and teaches the others how to bake cookies. She tells them about how good it feels to make and eat them, as the others are confused, saying how different it is where they're from, which, again, this is Mulan's daughter. I cannot picture Milan teaching her daughter how to make cookies like some 1950s domestic housewife, you know? It just feels so out of character. Lonnie asks if villains love their kids, as the group just stares in awe. Lonnie sheds a tear at this, realizing how awful their parents must be. Mal then takes the tear as they shove Lonnie out of the room. Mal then tells them to make the cookies, as we cut to the next day, with Mal being greeted by all of the girls. Jay talks about how it's not so bad at the academy, as Mal snaps him out of it, saying that they're evil. Jay greets all of the girls, telling them about the tourney coming up. Audrey tells Ben about what happened with Mal and that she'll see him after the game. Mal offers Ben a cookie, as he says he doesn't eat before the game. Mal manipulates him, saying that never eat food offered by kids of villains, and mockingly says that he's so smart. He takes it and eats it, talking about how he trusts her. She asks how he likes it, as he talks about it before trailing off and staring at her. The other villains all approach him, as Jay says, "How you feeling, bro?" Which, again, ugh. Ben then says he feels like singing her name, and does so before she covers his mouth. We then cut to the tourney game, where Auradon is tied with the rival school. Jay then tells Carlos to join him in the time as they get it out. Jay then tells Carlos to join him in the game. Jay doesn't share the ball at first, but then passes it off to Ben, who scores the winning goal. The announcer talks about how Jay and Carlos helped Ben score the goal, and they learned the value of teamwork. And man, I like this a lot better when Mario taught cavemen how to do organization and teamwork.
Good point. Also, the rival team. I wonder if they come from the DreamWorks University.
And the villains there, we have the son of Lord Farquaad we have the daughter of Eris, we have the son of that stupid racer guy from Turbo. All of them are there. Ben then jumps up on the podium and steals the microphone from the announcer, leading everyone in a cheer of Mal's name. Everyone cheers for Mal, as Mal asks the other girls what was in the cookie she gave him. Ben feels prompted to sing about her as he does so, it being a 60s love song parody with lots and lots of auto-tune in it for good measure. After the song and dance number, Audrey says that Chad is her boyfriend now, and that he's going to go to the coronation with her. Ben asks Mal if she'll go to the coronation, as Mal then notes how she feels sorry for Audrey because she's not as talented as Evie. We then cut to science class, where Evie looks through her purse for the magic mirror, and in what is a clever touch, Evie's purse looks exactly like the box that the Queen wanted to cut Snow White's heart into. So, I give him props, that is a clever use of a reference right there.
Pretty dark, too.
The science teacher has the mirror, praising Chad for telling him about it. The science teacher then says that Evie will be expelled, as Doug covers for her, saying that she didn't know what it did. The teacher then tells her that if she passes the test, he'll give her back the mirror. We then cut to outside, where Evie shows Doug that she passed the test, and how she finally feels like more than just a pretty face. As she and Doug flirt, Mal then shows up, telling her that Ben asked her out on a date. Evie says that they can handle it, and offers to give Mal some advice. We then cut to Evie making Mal look good for the date, as Mal is impressed. Evie says that her mother taught her how to apply blush before she could talk, as Mal reflects about how her mother teaches her. Evie says that she's like the sister they never had, as she then says that they need all the family they could get, noting how angry her mother gets when she doesn't get her way. Just ask Snow White. Evie then asks Mal if she's afraid of her mother, as Mal says that she just wants to make her mother proud, but she isn't sure about it. The pair then talk about how good Mal looks before Ben arrives, telling her, now I know the difference between looking pretty and looking beautiful. We cut to them riding off on a motorbike through the woods before crossing a rope bridge. Mal then tells Ben that her middle name is Bertha, and it's just her mother being evil as usual. Ben's middle name is Florian, which, in a clever touch, is actually the name of the prince from Snow White. So, they didn't use the name Grimhilda, but they did use the name Florian, so that's worth something. They then cross the rope bridge as he shows her the lake, set up with a picnic. They then have a picnic as he asks her if this is her first time, as she says, we don't do dates on the island, more like gang activity, as he then asks her if it's her first time eating a jelly donut, wiping the crumbs off her face. Ben then asks him to tell her something about her. She says that she's an only child and she's only lived in one place, as Ben says they have so much in common. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
It was at this point I realized why I was really disliking this movie, because this actually works. This scene is decent. It's kind of upsetting that if you take away the High School Musical in Disney princess cosplay that they're doing, they actually have the basis for a decent teenage rom-com here that could have worked.
Oh no, that's the biggest issue with this, that this actually could have worked. It's so easy, and yet they just fumble it. It really is such a shame. Mal playfully says that they don't have anything in common, and that Ben is going to be king. He then says that just because he has a crown, it doesn't mean that he's king, noting how different that Mal is to Maleficent. He then looks into her eyes and tells her that she's not evil. Ben then goes into the lake to go swimming as she stays behind. She notes that he's wearing swimming trunks with little crowns on it, as he then leaps into the lake. Mal then sings about how she's tried to do good, but she doesn't know which way to go. As we mentioned earlier, this is legitimately a good song. This actually might be the best song of the movie, which is kind of a low bar, but it actually is a legitimately good song. However, what they do to ruin it, they play clips from previously in the movie. This is a clip show music video stapled into the middle of this movie, which makes no sense whatsoever. Even if you just had different close-ups or fade-out shots of her singing, would have been preferable to seeing stuff that we already saw before. It's like, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back with this movie in a way. And that's why I think it's so frustrating, because you could see the bones of where it could work. This actually could have been something. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
As I was praising the movie, like, oh, okay, this actually is starting to get good. They seem to be toning down things. They seem to be understanding how to make these characters work together, because this is kind of a little bit charming and a little bit sweet. And then the clip show number started, and I was like, this movie, more than any other I think I've ever seen, is just actively trying to get me to hate it. I understand it.
Honestly, The only other way that ultimately would have worked is if the water in the lake would show all these stuff as like a little bit of a past thing about what she's done, and maybe show a little extra, like her actively not being for this sort of life deep down, but because her mother is her mother, it's something she ultimately avoid. However, with Ben, she wants to change and wants to do against that, but is it something that she can really do? Like, there's a bunch of ways you could make this song work better than it does, and sadly, though, this movie does not, which is a shame, but at least we get this song, so it's something.
After the song ends, she sees that she can't see Ben anymore. She wades in the water to try and find him, only for her to start drowning. Ben saves her as he asks if she can't swim despite being on an island. She notes that the island is surrounded by a barrier. Ben then notes that she tried to save him, but she's just upset about being wet. He then hands her a wishing rock from the lake, and in another really funny joke, she just takes the rock and chucks it right back in the lake without blinking, which, I'm sorry, that actually was a good gag. He then puts his jacket on her as he asks if she really does love him. Mal looks away and can't answer, as Ben says that maybe I can teach you to love. We then cut to class as it turns out to be Family Day, and even though they own it now, it is not Family Guy Day. There is a difference. But since their parents can't come, Fairy Godmother allows them to talk with their parents with a video chat. Maleficent and the others fumble with the computer, not knowing how it works in a good gag, with Maleficent even going so far as to try to use a remote control on it. When the television turns on, the Queen notes how good her daughter looks, saying how the poison apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. The villains are introduced to Fairy Godmother, as Maleficent sarcastically remarks, "Are you still performing tricks on eggplants?" And, "No, Maleficent, that's the wrong magic caster. You're thinking of the eggplant wizard."
Yeah.
Fairy Godmother says how she turned the pumpkin into the coat, as Maleficent snarks, "You couldn't give Cinderella until 1 a.m. and asks if they needed the hamsters back." Fairy Godmother yells about how there were mice as they leave, with Mal and the others standing there. I do actually like this comedic bit too. It actually got a chuckle out of me. Maleficent is physically unable to talk about how much she misses her daughter. It's a good comedic moment that feels in character for her. Jafar says that they're never farther from their thoughts, as Maleficent asks them how long it'll be until they're together. Mal says it won't be until the coronation on Friday, as Maleficent asks if they could see her sooner, nearly giving away that she wants the wand, before stammering out how they want to see you. Corella notes that Carlos has a dog with him, and says that she can make it into a pair of earmuffs. Carlos yells how he wants it as a pet, and says that her dog is a stuffed animal. Jafar laughs at this as the two villains then argue with each other. Jay shuts off the broadcast in disgust as Fairy Godmother apologizes for them. The quartet all walk away as Mal wonders what will happen if the plan doesn't work. Mal then says that their parents will be proud of them before saying that, "Actually, we'll be goners."
Yep.
We then cut to the team talking about how their scheme will work as Mal tells the others where to go and gives Evie a spray bottle to knock out the driver. Mal then looks conflicted and begins mouthing a spell before Evie realizes that she wants to break the love spell. Mal says that she's been thinking about when the villains invade. Ben being in love with her just seems too cruel. Evie tries to break through to her as Jay looks at his trophy, Carlos looks at Dude, and Evie looks at her test as they all wonder if this is the best thing for them to do. We then get a very brief song as Mal wonders if she could keep listening to her heart, then says how it's just hard to let go. We then cut to the next day, where Ben leads the others in a very terrible R&B rendition of Be Our Guest, which, forgive us if we don't talk about it too much, because this just sounds terrible, and it adds nothing to the story. It was like, oh, he's the son of Belle and Beast? Let's add a song of Beauty and the Beast. Yeah, that'll work. And it just sounds so unfinished. And again, nothing with actor, because they're doing the best they can with this material, but it just sounds horrible. It literally sounds like a bad YouTube mashup. That's the quality we're talking about here. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Without exaggeration, this is my most hated moment of this movie. Hey, what's popular with the youth? Hip hop? Okay, turn one of our really popular songs into a hip hop one. Let's go with Be Our Guest. That should win over the kids.
I personally didn't hate it. I liked the acapella that they added in the song, but I did kind of get a bit of a popular at the time vibe because this, to me, sounded a bit like Pentatonics, which at the time was pretty popular. So them doing a thing in a similar vein to that, yeah, I can kind of see how people aren't really too fond of this song for that reason. But again, I don't hate it. I think it's decent enough, but yeah, I can see how other people do.
But after the song, we then see Jay and Carlos eat from the chocolate fountain before Jay sticks his face in it, causing Carlos to laugh. Ben tells his parents how he has a new girlfriend, as Belle says that she's secretly glad, thinking that Audrey was always a bit too stuck up. Beast asks if they know her, as Ben calls over Mal, shocking his parents before the photo is taken. They then embrace, as Ben tells Belle and Beast about Mal and how she's from the island. Mal talks about how she came with their friends, and Belle says that they should invite her friends, because the more the merrier. Beast all invites them to croquet, as Mal and Ben then leave. Belle faints in her husband's arms as he keeps her steady. We then cut to a garden party, as an older woman asks Mal if they ever met. Mal says that she's a transfer student, as Audrey arrives, kissing the older woman on the cheek. It turns out to be Queen Leia, who actually is Aurora's mother and Audrey's grandmother. Audrey then tells Leia that you don't want to talk to this girl unless you want to take another 100-year nap. Leia thinks that Mal is Maleficent and is frightened over what she is going to do. Ben arrives and tells her all about the royal proclamation about giving the younger generations a chance, only for Leia to retort, "A chance to destroy us." She then tells all the others at the party to remember what the villains did, saying because of Maleficent, she never got to see her daughter grow up, which this actually is a good bit of conflict here. I wish they would have explored it more, like with the sins of the father and the sins of the child kind of deal. You actually could have had something here, and they don't really focus on it. Chad then arrives as the fairy godmother comforts Lee. Chad then confronts Ben about how they probably learned to be evil from their parents, and how Ben also enjoys hurting people because he ditched Audrey. Evie then asks the magic mirror who the biggest jerk of them all is, and shows it to Chad as he lunges at her. Not in a upset way. This guy lunges at her like he was about to choke her out, which I was not expecting that in this kind of movie,
Yeah, for sure.
She then sprays the bottle at him, knocking him out as the other heroes help him. The villains all run off as Ben calls after Mal. Beast says how he knew this would happen, as Ben says it's not their fault, but Beast says that, no, it's yours. We then cut to the next day where the villains are all ostracized by everybody else. Ben tries to tell them after the coronation tomorrow, everything will be better. He then leaves as Doug arrives to try and talk to Evie, but is rejected by the hero group. Jane and Lonnie then arrive to laugh at Mal for being a villain, as she then undoes Jane's hairdo. The other heroes then all laugh at Jane as Jane is shocked. Jane asks, "Who do you think you are?" as Mal says that there's more where that came from, and opens the book to read some more spells. The other heroes run away, as Mal says she's looking forward to tomorrow and that they'll get the wand, as they walk off yet again to rotten to the core. Oh, go ahead, Angron.
Yeah, it's at this point where Jane, you kind of get a little bit of an arc from Jane. From the get-go, Mal implanted within her the seed of desire. While we don't see it developed too much further, it does leaps and bounds with her. Not gonna lie, I definitely liked the build-up a little bit, from her basically being tempted to her pretty much going full-on freaking rebellion, wanting to do what Mal put in her head. Bit of a consequences of her actions sort of deal there.
We then cut to the next day as we see an exterior of a chapel. From the island, the villains are all watching as they eat popcorn. Snow White is a news reporter in a very weird bit of character casting here. You could not think of any other character that would make a news reporter than Snow White. The Queen throws popcorn at the screen and remarks about how Snow White had work done in another good gag. Oh, go ahead, Chuck.
It's because she has the word snow in her name. That's literally the joke.
Snow White then talks about Fairy Godmother before laughing at Jane's hair. And yeah, this also feels out of character. Snow White would not laugh at anybody else, but it's like you get what they're going for, but at the same time, it just doesn't click.
Yeah, I definitely get that. Not everything clicks. There are a few things that do sort of click. There's not really time or development given towards that sort of thing. You get a few, but not much in the whole movie for the most part.
The wand is then unveiled as Maleficent screams about how she wants it. In a really good joke, probably the best joke of the movie for me, Cruella snarks, "Oh, do you? I haven't heard that before." Which, that feels like it's in character. I do like that bit. Ben then arrives with Mal as he tells her all she has to do is look beautiful. He offers her to wear his ring as she says that she can't. She then offers him a brownie with the love potion antidote in it, and he says he can eat it later. He then eats it as Mal looks afraid, asking if he still loves her. Ben then says, "I don't know, let's see if the love potion wears off." He then laughs as he says how he knew about the love potion all along and that the spell washed off in the lake. Mal asks if he was faking it as he kisses her hand. The carriage then arrives as Mal notes how she now looks like some kind of a princess. Snow White says that the dress was designed by someone named Evie as the queen yells in joy at this. Maleficent tells her that they're so close to getting the wand and all she can think about is her daughter designing a dress. Maleficent then tells the other villains that they will get their revenge today, as they all laugh. Beast then approaches Mal, as Mal tries to apologize. Beast then says that, "I told Ben this wasn't going to be easy," as Ben says that, "You taught me a king has to believe in himself." Beast notes how wise he is, as Belle says that she's very proud of him. Ben then goes inside with his parents as Mal looks at him. We cut to a children's choir singing as Ben arrives into the room, with men bowing towards him while Maleficent watches all this. As they approach, the fairy godmother places the crown on Ben's head. She prepares to use the wand and asks if he swears to rule with both justice and mercy. He says he does so as she prepares to bless him, but somebody steals the wand, waving it in the air. The barrier is then broken, as Maleficent then summons her scepter and teleports into the castle. It turns out that who stole the wand was Jane, because she wants to look pretty right now. And this moment really just got me, because yes, Jane was self-conscious about her looks. Yes, Jane was upset about her mother. It still feels so out of place that she would just randomly do this at this moment. You think maybe she would try to do it before the ceremony or something like that, but it just feels so out of place here.
I want to know what kind of flimsy ass protection barrier spell was holding this island in place, because the act of Jane just holding the wand and then the magic flying a bit wildly is what cancels it out.
Okay, first of all, on that thought process, Jane is the daughter of the fairy godmother, and she probably has enough magic in her that something like an ancient barrier that her mother made would crumble under that sort of power. Second, again, the seed of desire. It was sprouted from the beginning, and the film didn't really take the time to develop that sort of seed, but it wasn't exactly not built up. The moment Mal brought back Jane's old look because Jane thought she was honestly better than Mal, that's honestly when Jane decided to get a little death. The buildup is there, so it's not completely out of place. It wasn't exactly as built up as the film wanted the impact to be, you know?
I get what you're trying to say.
She tries to cast a spell but continues to flail back and forth as Mal then grabs the wand, holding it up to Ben. Ben tries talking Mal down, but she says she has no choice because of her parents. Ben says that her parents made their choice and she can make hers. Mal then looks around the room and says that she wants to be good. Ben says that he knows that because he listens to her heart. Mal realizes that she also wants to listen to her heart, telling the others that they're not their parents. She says they have different things that make them happy compared to what makes their parents happy. Mal then says she doesn't want to take over the world, but she wants to go to school and be with Ben instead. She chooses to be good, with the other three also choosing to be good. Carlos then says that their parents are going to be very upset with them, as Ben tells them that their parents will never make it there. Everyone laughs at this before green smoke fills up the room. Maleficent is back, and does so with a theatrical flourish.
I'd like to note, with all these effects that we've been talking about, I am glad to see that there is someone somewhere that is still using the original 2001 version of Windows Movie Maker.
Yep, that pretty much sums up the level of these effects. These effects make Wyvern look like Peter Jackson. And we'll get to the biggest special effect failure in a second, because Mal then tells her mother to leave as Maleficent laughs, telling her to get the wand. Maleficent prepares to cast a spell, but Maleficent casts another one, freezing everybody in time. And this is a special effect that is now related to the CGI, but still looks bad. Everybody's supposed to be frozen in time, but instead of freezing the film, which is what you think they would do, they just have the actors trying to pretend to stand very, very still, which looks really silly because you can actually tell that some of these actors are wobbling, trying to stand perfectly still, and is an effect that looks very, shall we say, school playish. Oh, go ahead, Shark.
Yeah, definitely distracting. That honestly, it makes me think it would have worked better if they said, "Oh, it's a slow motion spell." So at the very least, even if they're moving, there will be an excuse of, "Oh, it's not that they're stopped; it's that they're just moving very slowly."
Maleficent then takes off Beast's glasses and tells him she's so handsome and that they could have been together in another time. She then playfully sticks the wand in Fairy Godmother's nose, which, thank you for that, before ducking underneath her. She then uses the wand to remove Mal's ring and puts it on the wand. She then approaches Ben, telling him that falling in love is weak and ridiculous. Maleficent then tells Mal that's not what she wants, as Mal yells that she does. Mal confronts her mother, asking if she ever considered what her wants were. Mal then yells that she's not her mother, as Maleficent agrees, saying it took years for her to get evil, and that she'll get there with time. Mal says that she doesn't want to get evil, and wishes Maleficent wasn't as evil. She tells her that love isn't weak or ridiculous, but amazing. Maleficent then says that Mal has no room for love in her heart, as Mal then summons the wand to go in her hand. Mal then laughs how it worked, before Maleficent calls this tedious and immature. Hey, I didn't know she read the reviews of this. She then demands to get the wand back. Jay says that love is good, as Dude jumps on Maleficent, with her throwing the dog down. Jay then approaches Maleficent as she grabs his muscles, saying that Gaston would be jealous before she punches him out. She turns out to have had enough of this and yells about how they will regret this. She then covers herself in green smoke, and when it disappears, she then turns into a dragoness, which is the main reason we're discussing this. Now, her design here, as I literally just said a couple of minutes ago, this makes Wyvern look like Peter Jackson, because this is on the level of the Scorpion King from The Mummy Returns. And even that kind of looked better, because that was made in 2001. This was made almost 15 years later, so what's this excuse?
To make it clear, last week we discussed a TV show, and the dragon there actually looked better.
Far, far better. And one thing that's interesting is that her eyes are actually orange here compared to green, which looks really off. They give her more humanoid eyes here, which they also did in the Once Upon a Time episode, but there, like Shark just said, it looks so much better than this. I don't know if they ran out of budget or they ran out of time or whatever, because, yeah, this really does not look good at all. This literally looks like they took stock dragon animation .gif and they just slapped it in there, you know? Maleficent then lunges at Jay as he hides from her, then tries to get the wand. Maleficent scares him off as he runs to join the others as they all try to flee. Evie uses the magic mirror to blind Maleficent, causing her to land. Maleficent then approaches them as Mal stands in front of her. They then look each other in the eyes as Mal repeats, "The strength of evil is good as none when it stands before four hearts as one," and repeats this a few times. After doing this, Maleficent then screams and collapses in on herself, disappearing. And this is the lamest villain death since Freddy was defeated with "An evil shall see its face and die," and they just show him his face in a mirror and he explodes. That is this level of complete cheapness to defeat Dragoness Maleficent.
I would like to note here, and this took me a couple of times watching this to actually understand this. They give her, in the dragon form, the actress's natural eye color for the dragon, which is wrong, first of all. But then they have the glowing green eye effect for when she's doing the staring contest with Mal. So I think, and I'm trying to give this movie as much credit as I can here, the idea is that her eyes glow green like, Maleficent's would when she is channeling magic. You'd think that she'd be channeling magic to, I don't know, be a dragon, but hey, what do I know?
They then run up as Mal asks if they did that. Fairy Godmother says that Maleficent shrank to the size of the love in her heart, and she is now a small lizard. She can now deny it no longer. She is small. But hey, maybe she can then build the Chum Bucket Mega Bucket on the beach. So she has that going for
And hey, she can still find love. She can find Tom the Lizard, and together they can press the lizard button.
her. Mal then stares at the lizard, wondering if her mother will stay like that forever. Fairy Godmother says since Mal learned to love, perhaps her mother can too. Mal then gives Fairy Godmother her wand back, as Fairy Godmother gives her the ring back. She then unstops time as Ben lunges at Maleficent, only for her not to be there. Ben then embraces Mal as he jokes, "Next time I rescue you." She says there won't be a next time, as she then leaves to take care of something. Fairy Godmother is punishing Jane for what she did, but Mal tells the Fairy Godmother not to be too harsh, saying it was her fault, and that Jane truly is beautiful inside and out. Mal and Audrey then bow to each other and laugh. A guard then puts a jar on top of Maleficent, as Mal tells him to be careful as that's her mother. The group then yell how they're going to get this party started, and we cut to a dance party ending, because of course this movie would end with a dance party ending. The villains are all watching this from the island as everyone dances to the final song, "Let's Set This Off." The movie then ends with Mal looking at the audience and breaking the fourth wall, asking the audience, "You didn't think that was the end of the story, did you?" And her eyes turned green. And that's it for Descendants. Descendants turned out to be a surprise smash hit, getting more than 4 sequels, including one where Mal turned into a dragoness, and we'll get to that in the future.
Well, this is where the thing I said all the way at the beginning comes to show. So this movie is 90% high school drama played straight, with a 5% of, oh, remember this magic thing, and a final battle where magic stuff happens for 2 minutes. Equestria Girls, everyone!
That's definitely what I got the vibe from this. And as I mentioned earlier, I was not too big a fan of Equestria Girls, but yeah, after seeing this, I actually have a little bit more respect for that, because at least that tried to kind of be like the original in a way. So yeah, we are definitely going to talk about Descendants 3 in the future, which is going to be very interesting. As we mentioned, I was not a big fan of this, but I could see why it's popular amongst the audience of teeny boppers, let's say. You could see why it's why kids in the 2010s would probably find this cool, because it has cool music and dancing, and maybe they've never seen things like this before. So I have to give them credit. I can kind of see why it's so popular.
This movie, I actually will give it credit. It has one of the best horror movie endings I've ever seen in my life, because it leaves on the promise of sequels. Oh, that's terrifying.
In any case, though, I kind of disagree with the Equestria Girls comparison. Like, granted, Equestria Girls had a little more development, and there are some similarities between it and this movie, sure, but I'll be perfectly honest, there's a lot more in this movie that make different than Equestria Girls. Yeah, there's a lot more similarities and differences I will somewhat agree on, but as for this movie, I thought it was alright. I was from the era where this sort of thing was pretty commonplace. I didn't really grow up with it or watch it all that much. It was just a part of my culture for the most part, so I can't give it too much flack for that reason, but at the same time, I can also understand how it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. It's definitely better than Keepers for the most part, and a lot less graphic, all things considered. But I can't say with certainty that I would recommend it to people.
Yep, I can definitely see why. But now it's going to lead to the question of the week, which is, what was your favorite Disney Channel show? I'll go first, and I could answer the obvious answer, which is American Dragon Jake Long, but unfortunately, Season 2, while having really good story, the character design in it is just so... Well, it's okay. You don't need us to say it. If you know, you know. Season 2 completely redesigned the characters, and they are not as good, which... everyone on the internet and their grandmother has said, so we are not gonna follow up on that. My answer is actually gonna be, and this is for Disney Channel shows. My answer is actually going to be Kim Possible, which probably is not only one of the best Disney Channel cartoons, it might be one of the better action cartoons. Like, okay, it's no Batman the Animated Series or Teen Titans, but to give it credit where credit is due, they did have a lot of fun with it, and the action is great. The characters are really great. It's one of those things where I'm actually surprised they have not tried to do a reboot or a sequel series because, it'd be so obvious, and yet they haven't. We got one really bad live action movie, and that's it, unfortunately. But yeah, I feel like Kim Possible as a whole, the reason why it holds up is because the writing team behind it, they were just, I believe it was the same writers who also worked on Batman the Animated Series and some other shows. And for that being said, it really feels like it was what kids wanted, while at the same time, not only just being a power fantasy, but also just being a lot of fun in general. The various villains are great. I mean, Dr. Draken is iconic for a reason. Shigo practically stole the entire show, and all the others are really well done as well. And yeah, it's one of those shows that really is almost a miracle how it turned out as good. I'm not saying it's as good as like Avatar The Last Airbender or anything like that, but for Disney Channel, it really was a breath of fresh air compared to a lot of the live-action formulaic sitcoms that they had at the time. So that's why Kim Possible is going to be my answer.
Oh, here's a first for a question like this. A triple answer, because just picking one in a list of Disney Channel shows is kind of an impossibility, especially where these three shows are concerned. The first needs little introduction, The Wuzzles. I have talked ad nauseum about this series in the past. I've talked about Hoppo. I've talked about the freaking clever plots that are actually smarter than one would initially think. I've talked about Hoppo. I've talked about the gorgeous art style that, to be honest, doesn't really get talked about all that much. Like, I talked about Hoppo. I've talked about the fact that this was the show that literally started Disney Channel. You could not have gotten Disney Channel without a series like this. And did I mention Hoppo already? Anyways, next number is Mighty Ducks. We've already covered this episode on the podcast in the past. Mighty Ducks, I freaking love this show. I saw trailers for it on VHS when I was a kid, and after seeing it, I definitely got the hype for this show. It was a lot darker at times than what I initially thought, but it was also definitely one of those turtle spin-offs that worked. Not enough to get another season, but peaks and troughs. But yeah, I love Tanya. I love the other ducks too. I like Wild Wing, Nosedive, Grin, the others as well. And I also like some of the premises for the most part. They weren't always as clever, and they've been done before by stuff like the Turtles and Cowboys of Moo Mesa, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, I still like this show. It has a place in my heart, and I'm definitely going to stand by it. And for number 3, this is a little long-winded, but bear with me on this one, Gravity Falls. Like, no joke, this is the show that came out in the 2010s, the bridge between the 2000s and the 2020s, and this would be the show that started the trend of pretty cynical and smart shows that are still Disney, but pretty dark for it. No joke. Like, if you're a fan of cryptids as much as I am, you're gonna get a kick out of this show. And also, good lordy, do I even need to tell you about a certain one-eyed Illuminati demon that's been present in this show? I think not. But yeah, that is 100% gonna be my pick. Wuzzles, Mighty Ducks, and Gravity Falls. Go check them all out. They're really great.
Yeah, that's a great choice right there. I can easily see why. Because again, Gravity Falls is one of those shows that really just went all out.
Abso-freaking-lutely. It was both the darkest and pretty much the most one-of-a-kind Disney Channel show you could possibly get.
Yep, definitely. So let's see, Matt, what would your pick be?
Technically speaking, this one cheats a little bit because it's actually from the Disney Afternoon, which then got properly integrated into the Disney Channel when they did away with the Disney Afternoon. But they were all made essentially for the Disney Channel, so I count them. Gargoyles. You know me, you've heard me talk about it. Gargoyles is my favorite Disney show of all time. I think that it was peak writing, peak casting. This is the best that Disney ever has been, and they still have not topped it. I'm amazed at how good this show was, and that it still holds up to this day, some damn near 30 years later. It's just such a shame what they did to it at the end, and that they're trying to reboot it, and from everything that they're saying, it sounds like it's not going to go well.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those things that might have been best left just untouched as a way. Like, we got the 2 great seasons, and the third one is hopefully not canon.
We shall see.
So, yeah, I can definitely see why. Because, again, we talked about it before in the podcast. It was really great, and I can't wait to talk about it again sometime in the future because it's going to be a lot of fun when
Yep.
we do.
For me, it was a really easy choice, and it's gonna be the classic Recess.
Nice.
Yeah, I always been a fan of like slice of life shows that it's not just a big adventure, it's not like a mystery and all of that. It's like no, it's just like kids being kids and all of that. Some cartoony stuff does happen, but still you can really relate with. You know, the TJ and the gang, the situations they get in can be like relatable to many kids. Like definitely there was one kid who ripped his pants one time and. There's an episode where that happens. Everything with Gus being the new kid, when you are the new one, you also relate to him. How you sometimes feel like, even as a kid, you can get stressed, and recess being that time of the day, you can really hang out, you can really play, you can be who you are and all of that. It's a really likable show. The characters are likable. Even like Randall, who is supposed to be like, the squealer and all, you can help but laugh at him. So, this show is always a good time. The episodes, as I said, it's something you will always find a relationship to. All the quote-unquote stereotypes, like the kid that smuggles things, the Ashleys who are always the girls that want to be like the fashionist ones and all of that. Yeah, I mean, all of you know this show. I'm pretty sure all of you watch this show, whether you're in this podcast hearing it or reading it sometime. So yeah, I don't really have to go into much detail of why I really like this one.
Yep, easy to see why. And we're not going to be talking about Recess, sadly, but we'll talk about something adjacent to Recess sometime in the future, so look forward to that. Now it is time for the patent-pending Dragoness Scale, where we are going to rank none other than Maleficent, again, but this version of Maleficent. And yeah, this might be the lowest Maleficent has gotten because, again, not to knock the actress playing her, because she is doing the best she can with what she has. And for what she is doing, she is giving it 110%. You cannot accuse her of half-assing the role. With that being said, the design of human Maleficent is off, and Dragoness Maleficent is just, I'm sorry, this really, really looks amateurish. For a major corporation like Disney to give us something that looks like this looks like an unfinished, unrendered 3D model. It's like they didn't finish rendering it, and they were like, oh, we gotta finish the movie today? Just slap it in there. It'll work. And it doesn't. It just looks terrible. And the fact that, again, she's defeated so easily does not help. And with that being said, any Maleficent is still Maleficent, but I am going to give her the lowest score I think any Maleficent will ever get from me. And that's a 5 because, I mean, granted, she's still the mistress of all evil. It's still a good design of a dragoness, but this particular design, it just looks terrible. I'm sorry. This really, really is not good CGI at all. Not for 2015. As I said earlier, even The Mummy Returns looks a little better than this. So, yeah, that's why I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10. Angron, what would you give her?
That's a little difficult because on the one hand, I do agree that with everything that you said, the actress herself isn't really half-assing her thing, and the dragon, I do like it a little bit more than you. It's still Maleficent at the end of the day, but on the other hand, it's not the Maleficent that has come to be associated with Disney. This is not Disney Maleficent. This is pretty much early 2000s or early 2010s freaking Maleficent as made by corporate Disney, as in interested in boy bands corporate Disney. And take it as you will, but I personally have kind of grown numb to that sort of thing. I've accepted it as part of our culture, but at the same time, it's not enough to give her anything really high. And also, again, the whole thing where she just doesn't feel like Maleficent certainly doesn't really help with things. That being said, I feel the positives and the negatives balance out for the most part enough for me to at least also give her a 5, because she's not completely terrible in this movie. There are some redeemable things about her and this movie in general. I can't confidently recommend this movie to anyone who is not really a fan of early 2000/2010 Disney pop shit. I am going to have to go with a 5 on this one.
Okay, let's see. Matt, what would you give her?
So I remember when we started this month that the book Maleficent I gave a 5, saying that I thought that this was going to be the lowest score I would ever give to a Maleficent with dialogue. Turns out I was wrong. I would like this movie to do me a favor and point to me anywhere in the film where Maleficent is, because this is not a Maleficent. I don't know what this is, but it ain't Maleficent. That's not a knock on the actress. She is doing the damn best she can with what she's given. She is just horribly wrong casting for this kind of character and what she's trying to do. I get why they cast her. She's a great actress and a great singer. That makes perfect sense. It
Yeah.
ain't Maleficent. And the way that they portray this character is just, I would actually argue, I think that this would have been a better Cruella de Vil than Maleficent, the way they have her written.
Or Evil Queen, dare I say
Even
it.
that. It's just so baffling how bad and how wrong this was on every level. And that's not even getting into the dragon, because, God, that was horrible. How did a made-for-TV series have better CG than your movie? That should not be possible. So with all that considered, and because we're rating Maleficence, this is the single worst I've ever seen. It's a 4.
Yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from there, because again, like we said, this is as much Maleficent in name only as the Lego version was.
Yeah, pretty much what Matt said, because yeah, the character and the role does not fit Maleficent. I know she's the most iconic Disney villain, but well, that doesn't mean she has to be like the main villain in any Disney crossover, because no, sometimes in this case, like I said, the dream forbidden parent does not fit for her, and yeah. She's barely in the movie, she doesn't feel like herself, the dragon does not look good, and what, she gets defeated like in 30 seconds in? Yeah, you gave me nothing there, Maleficent, and that's saying much because in the book we could say also the same thing, but yeah, I'm gonna go with a 4 as well here.
Wow, so this actually is one of the lowest scoring characters for a while, and it being Maleficent actually says a lot about this, unfortunately. But that's going to be it for this week. If you have any questions, or if you want to see what would happen if the actual Maleficent showed up in this movie, you can feel free to email us at fierydiscourse@alec.com. Visit us at Twitter at twitter.com/fierydiscourse. Visit us at Blue Sky at Blue Sky Fiery Discourse. Be sure to subscribe to the Fiery Discourse YouTube channel and leave a comment, like and hit the bell icon. Leave a comment. Any all comments are appreciated. Next week, we are going to be concluding Maleficent Month with the way that we began the podcast. We're going to be talking about the 1959 Disney movie Sleeping Beauty for the second time to conclude our Maleficent Month. This is because the first episode was, let's be charitable and say it was primitive compared to what the podcast usually is now. So that's why giving it a second look is a good idea. And it won't be the last redo we do, and it'll be fun. So can't wait for that. And thank you guys so much for listening. And until then, take care.
There, y'all.
Bye bye. See ya.
Peace out.
Adios. See you all next week.